Ron. God.
I got in trouble for TikToking today.
Come here, give me a hug. I don't care what anybody thinks.
Yep, I got in trouble for TikToking.
The magical
today, so.
hug right there. See, all is good now, so don't worry
It's
about it.
all good,
You're not in
brother.
trouble anymore.
Thank you.
No more TikTok.
That's the way it works.
No more TikTok, Mr. Phillips.
No, that is not gonna. It's not gonna work for me, brother.
Oh, all right. I'm gonna share. All right, bam. I'm gonna do this. Oh, by the way, my signature isn't working on my Gmail mobile app.
You'll have to fix that.
Yeah, yep. I was outside just panicking to get it done. All right, let me go here. Bada boom, pages. Kate, okay, you both got headphones. Oh, look at you two prepared women. Check that out.
Yeah, they got them headphones going.
All right. Just want to make sure. Okay,
Hey, Jamie, Teresa, how are you guys?
All right, I'm gonna share. Whoop. Oh. Okay, share. Come on.
That's why I start each day with raw
What is going on?
sexual chocolate.
Ron sexual chocolate.
This is
To work.
weird. It's not letting me
Find
share.
the flavor that stimulates you and gets you off
I'm
to
having
work
some
at
technological nightmares.
AmericanPrideRestaurant.com.
Really not
Every day.
appreciating This, man.
Minute and a half, 90
Hi, it's
seconds.
Doc Thompson for Matthew 25 Ministries.
that's
Matthew
weird.
25 Ministries is
What?
one of the few charities
It's
I'll
not letting
actually
me share.
endorse because I know them. I've worked with
this
them,
one
and I
share.
know almost all of the
Write
money
a
that you
post.
donate goes to help people. Go to m25m.org. m25m.org.
Defenders Live.
I believe that you intentionally scoured.
Okay, I'm gonna go here.
I don't know what you're talking about. No, this is news.
This is news.
This is news.
This is news. Okay.
Weeknights, 9 p.m. Mojo 50.
60 seconds.
At Romika Designs, we're
No stress, no stress, no stress. Share. Copy link.
I'm Ron Phillips, co-owner of Romika
Okay, then I'll go
Designs.
here.
If you can dream it,
Go to
we
my
can probably
page.
make it. We can custom
Boom,
laser
like
cut and
this.
engrave on nearly
Bam.
all material. Great for one-of-a-kind gifts, home
What have we got?
Audrey sends her love. Thank you.
or personalized and logo designs created just for you or your company.
Okay,
Allow us to
then I
become your
go
go-to
here.
gift and specialty project partner. Romika
Kate, are you
Designs
doing sign
will
language
make
over
your
there?
ideas a reality. We're ready to help you
All
design
right.
and create that special gift for any occasion.
30
or
seconds.
engrave
Don't
your
stress me out. I got this.
personal
I got this.
View our designs at romikadesigns.com or simply email us with your ideas. We specialize in custom
here,
design and
bam.
we'd be honored to have the opportunity to discuss it with you.
That.
Call us
Okay.
at 817-400-4040.
10
Email
seconds.
info
Oh my
at
God. Now
romikadesigns.com
you're stressing out
or
just a
visit
little
us on the web at romikadesigns.com.
Journey into the matrix of the mind. Stretch your imagination and challenge reality. Abnormal realities are beacons for the imagination. What society deems abnormal may be more real than we think. This is Abnormal Realities with your hosts,
Ron Sexual
Ron
Chocolate.
Phillips and Rocky Stucci.
No pressure, Mr. Phillips. Nope. Listen, I got it all done right to the second because I am an El Professional.
Yeah, you did.
Do you feel me? I got
do.
it all done, and I'm back on the page. We got the chat going right now on the Facebook Abnormal Realities page, and I am going to in just a second. The only thing I didn't do, there you go. There
What?
you go. You're working that finger.
I'm
is what you're
working the
doing.
finger over here,
yeah,
man.
you are. Phillips is working the
good.
finger, folks.
I'm good with it. There we go.
There we go.
Boom.
Bam. Hey, man, I'm excited for this one.
This is going to be a good show.
This is going to be a
I'm
good
excited.
show.
I got to meet him right before the show, and this is fantastic.
So I will say one thing. Jeff used to be a regular guest when I was doing similar shows in the past.
Right.
And he's one of the guys, when you bring him on, folks, it's going to be Jeff Harman tonight. So, I mean, sit down, get out your notepads, because every time we finished a show, we are literally just scratching the surface.
I can imagine.
There's just
An hour's
so
not enough.
much. So, I mean, Ron, if there's anything during this conversation, you take it, brother, if you have questions, because
I'm going to be learning. I am.
yes.
Because I've not met Jeff before tonight, so you know more about what his background is, and I've got his bio here, but I'm interested in understanding what Jeff has to tell us.
plus
So
he rides a bike.
he does. He rides an Indian. I heard that. My
Yeah.
brother rides an Indian.
Yep, and
I'm a
what-
biker. I have a Harley, but it's not an Indian.
And what do I got?
Nothing.
Really, you couldn't have lied just for the show. You could have just came up with something really cool. But let's not waste any more time. Let's get this brother in. And there he is, Brother Jeff Harmon. Sir, man, I'm going to tell you something.
right,
You are a
buddy.
sight
Thank
for
you.
sore eyes. Thank you so much for coming back on the program.
Thanks for having me, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And folks, get used to the face because I mean, there's a couple things, Jeff, that I'm gonna throw at you during this program in regards to a recent conversation that we have had. But before we continue, for all the new listeners and all the new viewers that are listening or watching, why don't you give us? I would try to read your bio, but there's some language in there that I will probably demolish trying to read. So why don't you just
long words,
some very long words? Yeah. Why don't you just give everybody just a quick background? Now you've been in astrology for what, 45 years?
Yeah, since about 1975. It was how it all started was my mother. I was just driving at that time, and just for probably about a year or so, somewhere around in there. And my girlfriend, she would peg them to the T, and she would say, "Jeffrey, that girl's not going to work for you." And I go, "Well, how do you know?" And then she would talk about, other things that were just so spot on. I said, "What are you doing?" And she said, "I'm doing their astrology." And I kind of laughed, because you got to remember, in 1975, I was logging, driving semis, building things. I grew up in like Dukes of Hazzard, northern Wisconsin, by the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So I just didn't think there was any efficacy to it. And she said, "Well, before you knock it, check it out." And I did. And that's when I have to say, I was like, wow, there's something to this that goes on a little bit more than just this modern sun sign stuff. And I was very blessed to get into the ancient stuff. And I've really met a lot of wonderful people. Ron and I were talking before the show, and I had a studio for years doing commercials, and I got to work with people like Mother Teresa, George Carlin, so many wonderful people, and it was a lot of fun. And those are the two that always stick in my mind: is George Carlin and Mother Teresa. Even though they're juxtaposed 180-degree opposite, they're actually a lot alike, because they both didn't like the mundane world. They thought the world was. George did it in satire, and Mother Teresa just fed everybody. So it was
a good way to look at it.
Absolutely.
I mean, it makes total sense.
I go through Brentwood every other night, and I go down. George Carlin's office was in Brentwood on San Vicente, and every time I go by the window, I go, George, if we ever needed you, we need you now more than ever.
That is absolutely the truth. And I read something in your bio about you're the only person with client files in filing cabinets that were given to you.
And the filing cabinet George gave me. Yeah, George, it was 1994, and George says, "Hey, do you need any filing cabinets?" And I said, "Oh, George, I always need filing cabinets. You gotta get them the hell out of here, because I got new ones coming." I said, "Okay, great, thanks." So when I got it back to my office, I found this big wad in a Pendafex folder of $100 bills. And I thought, well, geez, I better go tell him. So I went in there the next day, and, he was still in the office, because he's usually on the road. And the secretary says, "Just go on in there and see him." So I said, "George, you left all this money in one of the filing drawers." He wipes it out of my hand. He goes, "Where in the hell did you grow up?" Because I was supposed to steal it. And he says, "Here, you get to keep one for being uncommonly honest." So that's my George Carlin filing cabinet story. And I've always treasured him, because, he passed in 2008. And I never thought anything until I went, wow.
It was 2008?
Yeah, 2008 he died. Yep.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
And, I knew his first wife, Brenda, and his daughter, Kelly, vaguely. But I came into George on a movie soundtrack. And George owned a recording studio and an editing facility in Brentwood. And that's how I met him. So
wow.
Heck of a guy. We need him now.
Yeah, there's absolutely no.
He could teach us a lot.
He could. Well, he has taught us.
He
a
did.
lot.
He
really.
taught us a lot, but he needs to teach the younger generation.
It's almost weird, because we were just talking about Nostradamus the other day, Jeff, and it's weird because George Carlin, in a way, now he doesn't predict the future, but he saw things 2 decades ago in regards to probably current events and future events, just the way he sees things, and then he explains it, and he was a pretty powerful guy.
The American dream was so spot on, and it's more spot on today than ever before. I mean, when you really look at where the world has gone, he said it right. He said, forget the politicians, you have owners. They own this place. And he couldn't have been more spot on. I got to say, knowing George personally, I would, if we're not on the air sometime, I'll tell you some of the other things.
I like those kind of stories. I love off the air stories.
Yeah, no, that's
So,
that's
hey,
some good
folks,
stories.
I just want to let everybody know in regards to a conversation that Jeff and I had months and months and months ago is that Jeff actually, when he did a live astrological reading, is that how I say it, Jeff? Am I saying it right? An astrology reading?
Yeah, we looked at your cycles.
Yeah, and in the cycle, and I'm going to have Jeff explain what he means by cycle and everything in regards to universal alignment and just mind-blowing stuff. He actually said that I will be making a move, and you pinpointed it. I think it was like the New Mexico area, Texas area, Arizona-ish. I remember it was somewhere within that range. It was somewhere in there because how everything planetarily lined up. Can you explain? Can you explain that? What I'm trying to say, and maybe explain it way better than I can.
Yeah, one of my favorite types of astrology that's always really intrigued me was the Indian astrology, also known as Vedic astrology. And it really shows how we are spiritual beings having a physical experience. And the whole philosophical tenets of it is that the soul is experiencing things in time. It's really not predicting the future. It's showing energy points at which change ensues. And if I recall, Rocky, I think you had a Jupiter progression, and it's been a long time since I looked at your chart, and I didn't look at it before the show. But my recollection is probably that it was a Jupiter progression moving in, which is a much better time in your life. Nadi astrology blows my mind. It's every person that I see, including myself, marriages, sicknesses, getting better, windfalls, et cetera, are really indicated by the energetic flow. And, the question is, do we have free will? Absolutely. And I think if Rome, the bearded men who were murdering each other back in the 2nd through 5th centuries, who basically threw out the doctrines of reincarnation, which were there in original Christianity, and there's proof of it. And I've actually gotten into arguments about stuff like that with people, but there actually is proof of it. You would find that the Vedic astrology parallels much of the tenets of ancient, not only Christianity, but many other of the Judeo branches of both the Judaism and Christianity, quite elegantly. And what I like, and that's what we saw in your chart, is you can really see times of change, but it's still incumbent upon us to have skills and set goals, and it's like a car. You can't just put gas in the tank. You got to push your foot on the pedal and steer. So it's the same darn thing, and I think it's a very helpful navigational tool that aligns quite well with many of the tenets of positive thinking and goal setting that are critical to getting somewhere in life.
So I was trying to explain to Ron yesterday, just trying to talk about some of the things that we have covered, and I can't even scratch the surface, but I was telling Ron, there are certain times that are good times to make business decisions and bad times to make business decisions. How does that play when we talk about the universe and the alignment of the universe? How does that play a factor in the decisions we make every single day?
Well, it's like a stop and go light. That's the analogy I like to use. When you go on a green light, things are likely to go a lot better than when you run the red light. And that's kind of the thing. Again, people often do, and I do it myself, what we want to do. We have free will. But I think taking a look at when that green light's there, when the yellow light's there, and when the red light's there is not a bad idea. You can't stop the red lights, but you certainly can react to them appropriately. And I think that timing really makes a huge difference. I really do. So that falls into the category of electional astrology, which I do a lot of. I've had a lot of people moving. Many people are leaving some states to go into better environments with all this political upset. And I find that listing your house with a realtor at a good time is amazing. I do a lot of surgery elections. Sadly enough, I do a lot of lawsuits too. Like, when should we hire the attorney to defend ourselves? And hopefully no one gets into that situation, but we often do. And when we do, it can be a guiding help, to time things more appropriately.
All right, so I'm going to bring this up, and Jeff, I'm trying to remember, brother, if it was me and Bauer, or if it was you and I that had this conversation, but we were talking about evolution, the creation of this planet. Was that you that we were talking about? Because the other day, Ron and I were having a discussion in regards to the seeding theory, the creation of man, Adam and Eve, all those different things, biblical references.
Yeah.
Does astrology and the Bible align? Do they not align? Or can we validate things in the Bible based off astrology?
There's a couple of texts that do that. One is the more old, I would say, one of the oldest documents in existence, in my opinion. It's called the Sefer Ratziel. It's named after the archangel Ratziel, and it's actually believed to have been bequeathed to Adam when he fell out of the Garden of Eden. And no one can prove or disprove this, but it's very interesting how many of the ancient documents in Masonry, the Hebrew, the rabbinical text, etc., either if they don't reference it, they certainly make allusions to references in it. And the Bible itself has all these angels that are in Exodus, and it talks about the cycles. And one of the cycles was the flood, obviously. And, geology has given us some kind of a carbon date somewhere about 4,000 plus years, or I think it was about 4,000 BC. And we have texts that show when the world changes. And that kind of brings us to where we are right now. If you remember, Rocky, we were talking on your show, and years ago, I was on George Norrie on Coast to Coast, and the first thing he said to me was, Jeff, what do you think of the Mayan calendar? And I said, George, not much. I said, I can't come up with a damn thing for the Mayan calendar that would hit the broadside of a barn. But I said, watch out for 2020. And I've been saying that for years and years and years. And the reason why we had, back up, 9/11 happened exactly on a Saturn-Pluto opposition. 9/11 happened, changed the world. Then the banks crashed in 2008 on the square. And the conjunction just happened when, at the very beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. Did I say pandemic or scam? I said pandemic. Okay, so right at the beginning.
We're good either way.
We got it. We got it. Either way, it's fine.
I'm bad. Forgive me, Lord. Anyways, the point is that right exactly on January, you could have set your watch to it. And no one could 100% call exactly how this was going to come down, but I knew something was coming down. And I think it's safe to say the world has changed since COVID-19. And that was almost to the T when the initial broadcasts of the pandemic had come out. And that Saturn-Pluto will forever change this world. I mean, look what happened. We see the political mayhem that happened. We saw everything. The other thing that happened was the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction, which was a 240-year cycle. The last time this happened was the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. Do you think the world hasn't changed since then? Watch it change now. This Saturn-Jupiter conjunction, which just happened, literally on the winter solstice. Well, we see what happened. We had the election issues. Then we're now seeing this not only censorship, but a high-tech mindset that is really all about control through high tech. We're seeing cyber attacks. We're seeing all kinds of things. I think that's the ripple effect of it happening. But the United States in astrology I think we're going to go through one of the most dramatic changes this country has ever seen over the next 2 years. In fact, I actually showed here, since we can't do screen sharing, I have a little show and tell. This is kind of hard to see. I'll hold it up next to my microphone. This is what we call a graphic ephemeris. And by the way, this is, you can see up here, it is the United States chart. I'm kind of looking backwards, so forgive me if I'm fumbling here a little bit. But you can see right there, it says the U.S. Sibley chart. And that's named after Ebenezer Sibley. And he was a Masonic person who purportedly was present at the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Well, right here, it's a little bit hard to see, and I'm looking backwards here. I'm ambidextrous here. Let me just see here. So where it says number 1, which is over here, right? That's number 1. This is the planet Neptune, which you can see is a little crescent of the moon bent upwards with a cross beneath it. A little bit hard to see. I wish we could do screen sharing. You'd really see high resolution. But anyhow, the 1, 2, 3 that you see here is the United States having planet Neptune squaring Mars 3 times this year. You can see at the top of the page, it says 220 and 221. I'm sorry, 221 and 222. And what does this mean in plain English? The last time this happened was the Civil War. Now, I'm not saying we're going to have a civil war, but I think we're already in one, but it's on a much different level. It's one that is, you could say the globalists against the nationalists might be one scenario. The other one might be we're seeing a huge change in the way that the owners, to quote George Carlin, at the top, might be reshuffling the deck in the power structures in the whole political game. And not to get political here, but what does this mean in plain English? Well, and I'm not saying we're going to have a civil war. What I'm saying is we're going to have, usually these things bring the Neptune square Mars, Neptune opposition Neptune will typically bring subterfuge, trickery, or bamboozling like you've never seen before. Here's what's different. Next year, in 2022, you'll notice I now have, I got to look this way so I don't screw this up, over here. This is a new 1, 2, 3 that you're seeing. Well, it goes over this way here, but it goes off the page. It actually begins between now and the beginning of 2023. We have a Pluto return. That has never, ever, ever happened before.
What is a Pluto return, Jeff?
Pluto, a lot of astronomers make fun of us.
Not
Pluto,
really a
because they say,
planet
well,
kind of thing.
it's not really a planet, right? It's a planetoid. It's not real. And then they change their mind and put it back in. They can't figure out what to do. The only thing I can say is in astrology, it sure seems to show up. I mean, unequivocally, 9/11 was on the Saturn-Pluto opposition. The banks crashed right when the Saturn-Pluto square happened, and we saw COVID-19 come in. So bottom line is where we're at is the Pluto returns usually will transform something so drastic that you either won't recognize it or it'll destroy it. Now, the other positive side is Pluto is often referenced to as the phoenix rising up out of the ashes. So it could be, and I keep getting, and I pray that this is the case because we all have children, grandchildren, and loved ones and all that stuff. So it could be that the political structures go through such transformation between now and the next 2 years that we will not either recognize it or it will be rebuilt like the phoenix out of the ashes. My sense is the latter is going to happen. How that happens, we're going to have to wait and see. And again, there is free will in the world. And I think, Carlin was right. Forget the politicians. You have the owners. Thomas Jefferson said, if anyone ever gets the power to print our money, they are more dangerous than any standing army. He's quoted saying that. I wasn't there, but I did go to Monticello, and I believe he said it.
Hey, Jeff, let me ask you something. Though.
That's almost an evident. I mean, it's almost evident nowadays that that's the case. I mean, look at how much money we're spending. So
when you talk about the Saturn,
and Wilson
Pluto,
signed it over to him.
Right. And when you talk about the Saturn-Pluto opposition, now we got about 4 minutes left, 3 minutes and 50 seconds before we got to be out. When we talk about events like that, some of them happen every 200 years, some of them happen every 300 years. What is happening to affect our planet in such a way that we can have repetitive events, even tragic events, repeat themselves almost to a clockwork? What is happening? Is it affecting our energies, our moods, our mental stability on this planet?
I believe it is, yeah. I mean, when you take, even many people, I've got some great clients in neuroscience and other really advanced quantum physics areas, and we have these conversations a lot. And I really believe that right now we're having a grand solar minimum, why the weather is so off the charts. I don't believe it's cows farting or SUVs. I think it's the sun. Though I could be wrong. I try and stay away from farting cows. But anyhow, the bottom line is it's not a bad idea. But I think the sun is really doing some wacky stuff. There are some folks who are saying we're going into a dark rift in the what we call precession of the equinoxes. There's like a 5,700 something odd year cycle around the central sun. And that's known as the Great Year. Hence why we hear the Aquarian Age, the Piscean Age, all that, Iron Age, all that. So a lot of astrologers believe we are currently in the Aquarian Age. I don't want to sound in any way presumptuous, but I don't believe that's true. I think it's coming. I think it's going to be here in a couple hundred years. I think we're on the edge of it, but I don't think we're there yet. But yeah, all those cycles, Rocky, it's amazing how I don't think anything happens the same way twice, though.
Right.
When you really think about it, you look at the wars and the cyclic things that happen, it's never the same way twice. It's like the Fibonacci equations in nature. There's all the snowflakes, out of the trillions of them that are made, not dollars, snowflakes, that you literally have not one the same. Though it's a profound thing, creation itself. It really is.
Well, Jeff, too.
Only could go to the divinity.
I was thinking, when we talk about what we were just talking about, Mercury
and retrograde,
and how you cannot penetrate this field right here.
Oh, yeah, you can.
But Ron, when that's happening, he gets emotional.
Oh no, things happen around my house when that happens, and of course, some of our show hosts follow that pretty closely too.
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
I want to talk about that a little bit when we get back, but also. I read something else in your bio about the JFK assassination, being a consultant for that too. So I think we should.
Yeah, we never finished it. We never really got to go on it, and that was a pretty weird enigma. But yeah.
Well, when we come back, Jeff, we got a few seconds before we got to be out, folks. We have Jeff Harman on the program. I want to bring up some Jeff as well. He does clearings. He's within the spiritual field, the paranormal field. He is a man of many trades. So we are going to indulge in this conversation and so much more. And ladies and gentlemen, this will not be the last time you see Jeff Harman on the show, because there is never enough time to have these conversations. This is Abnormal Realities. Ron Phillips, Rocky Stucci right here. Abnormal Realities Facebook page, iHeartRadio, Mojo 50, Odyssey, Ops, Lens, and broadcasting around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back. Stand by.
When will your adventure?
Wow, that was some trippy music right there.
I love that music.
Oh yeah, no, I was saying I love it too. So
hey, hello.
In a world where political discourse has left a void in our world's ability to help hurricane and other natural disaster victims, it's the role of the Federation to stand tall and make a difference. Shop the Federation Promenade and make your donation at trekfederation.com today.
This is a potter's field. When people can't pay for their funerals, they are buried here. It is a lonely, desolate place, littered with unmarked headstones. No one visits. No one leaves flowers. But it doesn't have to be that way. For as low as $1 a day, you can ensure your family will have the money to pay your funeral expenses. We offer burial insurance plans that pay up to $30,000. Considering the average funeral costs more than $10,000, that's peace of mind for your family.
Alrighty.
Your rates won't increase.
Back in 1 minute, folks. Back in 1 minute.
As long as you make your premium payments.
There he is. He's back.
Oh. No, we're good. No panic.
He's back.
All right. Jeff, you panicked me for a second if you can hear me. You panicked. I'm like, no, we lost him. He thought it was one segment. No, Jeff, come back, please. All right, we got...
we're back in 30 seconds, Jeff.
You want to bring us in? You want to throw some Ron Phillips out on the floor?
Oh, just go ahead, dude. I'm learning from you.
You don't need to learn. Bring us in, brother. Come on. Thank God we're not getting no pictures from Izzo.
Oh, no, I'll get a picture from him.
Izzo, if you're listening, send Ron
No,
Phillips a
don't.
picture.
Please don't send me any more. I already have enough of those.
I'll forward it to Misty.
No, don't.
I will.
Thanks.
I will.
Gee. 10 seconds. Here we go.
Off Track, Sunday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern.
Live free. Mojo 50.
All right. Goosebumps.
All right. I love this. Yeah, we talked about it the other day. Welcome back to Abnormal Realities, folks. My name is Ron Phillips. This is Rocky Stucci. We welcome tonight Jeff Harman. And we've got some interesting discussions going on right now, and we've got some more that are going to happen this segment. What are you doing?
I was watching myself
yourself
flex. Dude, that looked good.
Holy
dude,
crap,
I got chills
dude.
watching me get chills. That's the weirdest thing. There's some universal shit going on right now. I need a hug.
No.
Not yet? All right,
Yeah,
after the show.
We'll do
After
that
the
later.
show.
All right, we're going to welcome back Jeff Harman to the show. Jeff, can you hear us? We saw you bounce out real quick.
I had a minor panic attack, but I'm okay. I was like, oh my goodness. And he thought I didn't.
I had to go get some more Mojo. See,
There you go. There you go.
Drinking Mojo on Mojo 50 Radio.
Thank you, Rocky, for
got to.
Throw it out. That's what we do, bro.
So Jeff, you were a consultant on the JFK assassination, and you said something didn't occur there. What was it that you were talking about? You didn't get to
I
do
wasn't
that
a consultant on a JFK assassination. What I did is I was doing forensics work, and I had it was funny. We were talking before the show. I used to have a studio, and I would have bands pulling in and commercial people, string sections, horn sections, rock and roll bands, you name it. And then I would have detectives coming by, dropping off evidence. And I did voice print analysis. Voice print analysis is a technique where you can actually print the voice very much like a fingerprint. And so I was doing a lot of that work. I kind of fell into it. I actually did a naval officer who was being accused of murdering a cab driver, and I was able to be hired to analyze tapes in front of a jury and prove that they were tampering with evidence, and that got me into forensics work. Long story short. So then this attorney had approached me and said, Jeff, he says, I've got all the JFK assassination audio tapes combined with the visual, because we remember back in '63. I remember when he got killed. I was just a little kid, but they would sync audio with film. You didn't have like we have today, a videotape. You just run it and the audio and the videos together. Well, back then you'd run 16 or 35 millimeter cameras, and guys would run audio and sync it. So he wanted me to make an analysis as to when the shots were fired versus with the sound versus the impacts. And you could tell because the sound travels at a finite speed, and of course light is so much faster, so we would have reference points. And I was going to start working on it, and he was so excited. He literally said, Jeff, I'm so excited about this. And then it dried up, and I won't mention the company he was working with. Huge. I mean, you'd know them in a minute. And I don't want to mention any names here on the air. But what was interesting is how mysteriously that funding dried up. It's like almost somebody came up to him and said, "You're not doing this.
Yep.
Okay. You're done." And they pulled it. And I just said, okay. And that was it. So I never acquired the evidence to actually do the work, but I had several meetings about doing it. And he was exceedingly excited. And I won't, again, mention who it was or where it was. It was in the Chicago area. But very interesting how that,
No, I'm absolutely intrigued by that entire JFK assassination. Of course, I wasn't around yet, but 3 years later I was. But it happened here, of course, where we live. And so, Rocky, I think one of the trips you came down the first time, we took you over to Dealey Plaza. So, Jeff, I'm interested in that whole conspiracy side of that.
Dude, I got to tell you, Jeff, when Ron brought me down there, when we were driving and he said, do you guys want to go down to the plaza? And it was weird. The feelings were a little mixed because I was actually excited. I mean, I was like, hell yes, I want to go, right?
Most people are.
But then you get there, and
it's very somber.
It is. Everything changes.
It
just changes. All of a sudden, you are looking, all the videos we watch, all the research we've done. And,
you can stand. Rocky stood right where Abraham Zapruder stood to shoot that film.
That's right.
You did. You got up on that little,
you sit on the grassy knoll, the fence is still there. I mean, everything is identical to when that happened that day. And it was just like...
We're not real proud of it, but it is part of history, right? So
Oh, it is. You know, it's interesting because that attorney had access. He was in a huge communications company. That's all I'll say. And it's also a division of a major studio. And how he accessed all this stuff was quite interesting because it was archives from some of the major networks, not all of them, but some of them. And for him to have access to that alone would have taken a lot of doing. And some of them were copies that were not originals, where they were prints that were made on, a lot of that was 16 millimeter back then in the newsreels. And the audio tapes, of course, were dubbed too. But it was interesting that he was able to access that, and yet, and as excited as he was, I got all dried up. I went, just another interesting topic, in Tucson, Arizona, there's an air museum, the Pima County Air Museum.
I've been there. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And they had Air Force One that JFK and Lyndon Johnson had flown back on from, they brought the body back to Washington. And I was there with my wife and my son and my dad, and I figured, you know, I want to go on this. So I actually walked onto the plane. And, you know, this is an interesting topic.
Did you get any feelings from being in that plane?
Great question.
Oh my God.
No, I just,
wow.
I would.
Well, they're called elementals. They're called elementals. You can, a lot of people, when you go onto properties or there's hauntings or there's ghosts, a lot of people measure temperature changes. They'll measure other types of magnetic changes. Well, one of the things you can feel, and every human being is imbued with this, is, did you ever notice right after a thunderstorm, you can feel the ions change?
That's right. You sure can.
It's heavy. When I went on to that Air Force One, which back then it was a prop. That was, you know, 1962, I think was 62 or 63.
63,
it was 63. Yeah. So October 63. So that was a plane that was probably built like the year before. And when I went in there, I couldn't believe how primitive it was. You know, you had wooden tabletops, and, you know, that was Air Force One, you know, from the 60s. And the heavy energy I felt, I literally felt things just crunching in on me. And I went, wow, this has some really heavy duty, I almost felt demonic elementals associated with it.
Okay.
All right.
And there's been a lot of rumors, you know, and I don't want to get too conspiratorial here, but then again, it's kind of fun.
Yes, sir.
I love it. That's what we're here for.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of, and of course they like to refer to people who do this as nuts and cuckoo and crazy. But, you know, I've been around a lot of guys who've been very level-headed in military and in government, and they're very much aware of the esoteric, you could say, backgrounds that a lot of these political and military people get around. And there is if you look at Washington, D.C. itself, it is a Egyptian temple. I mean, the French architect who laid that out, there's many books about this. Oh, wow. It is literally a geometric Egyptian temple. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's huge. And the masonry that goes into the background, George Washington, every single founding father of this country was involved in some area of masonry or occult background. Yep. And it's well known. And if you look at the symbolism in Washington, its geometry is really kind of mind-blowing, how it's laid out, the obelisks and the domes and the geometry of where the Capitol is, where the Senate is, where all the different major buildings, and the roadways too.
So, Jeff, is that similar to like Rome as well? Because Rome has the same like weird geometrical layout as well.
Yeah. Oh, do you know the Romans used to do rituals before they would sack a city to chase the angel of the city away so that the people would not have the resolve to fight and they could just take it? This kind of occult knowledge has been around a long, long time. And I'm always fascinating. I've had the blessings of working with remote viewing groups. And I've actually been hired to do astrology analysis as to why certain remote viewing groups hit their targets much more accurately at certain times versus other times. I've got documents to stick on it. And it's fascinating. There's been several groups where we found fixed stars, the rotation of the Earth, cycles that are affecting us at various times. Lunar aspects especially are huge in the ability to have clarity in them hitting their targets. So remote viewing is a very interesting area because it's exceedingly parallel to psychic work. And
That's
all
what my son just recently took a remote viewing class.
Right.
I didn't know you could take classes on remote viewing,
The
but my son
CIA.
just took that. Yeah.
The CIA teaches it
Oh, they do?
to their recruits.
Oh, wow.
It's a
Okay.
real deal thing. So Jeff, that's interesting you say that though. So people are more effective during certain alignments compared to other times. That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Oh, you bet. And you have what we call personal progressions and transits. Like I've had one gentleman, he was spot on. He fell off the beam and he said, "What happened to me?" I said, "Well, you just went into the moon's south node." I wish I could show you a screen here because I have so many amazing graphics we could share. We do this on Zoom sometime. I'll be able to do that. What's so cool is the sun and the moon and the earth align. See, it's called the obliquity of the ecliptic. It's a fancy term, just means the angular area of our Earth, which is about 23 degrees, 44 minutes. And of course, that's why we have seasons. As we go around the sun, we do so at an angle. The sun appears to go south in the winter, if you're in the northern hemisphere, and of course, north in the summer, as it is now in the northern hemisphere, and it drastically affects not only the seasons, but magnetic energy as well on the Earth. So what's important about that is we found that the eclipse points, which is also known as nodes, the north node and the south node, which are a huge deal in spirituality, and I would also say, interestingly enough, longevity on this planet. There's a type of astrology in Vedic that is referred to as Naadi. It's pronounced Nadi astrology. And many people may have heard of the Nadi palm leaves in India. Well, this is an area of great research and study that I've been involved with for a long, long time. Many years ago, I had a teacher. He's an amazing guy. He used to actually do charts for some very powerful people. You could actually say they were a member of the owners over there in London. Like we're talking Rothschilds, etc.
Yes.
And he would show me charts and he'd say, "Well, this person will get married here. They'll do this here. They'll do that there, and they'll die right here." And I go, "Well, how did you do that?" And he says, "All I'm doing is following Jupiter, Saturn, the moon's north and south nodes, and when they juxtaposition to the birth chart." That's one of the things I was looking at on you, Rocky, was how to look at the cycles. And a lot of people try and deify me. "Oh my God, and I said, "Well, don't deify me." I said, "If you took the years to study this, you too would see it. It's math. It's not predicting the future. It's energy. No different than a physicist is to be deified because they figured out how to make electricity work. We can't see that either, but it's just science." One of my favorite guys to refer to is Dr. Claude Swanson. You may have heard of him. He's a physicist. He wrote the book, the Synchronized Universe, and a wonderful, wonderful set of texts he's done. And he came out of DARPA and the military and all that. And we have these amazing discussions about these energy fields, which now with artificial intelligence encroaching into the world, and that's something I would say the future really holds. We are going to see flying cars. We're going to see life become like the Jetsons over the next 20 years.
I'm in.
It's going to be mind-blowing.
Yeah, I'm in. I want my electric car first, then my flying car second.
There you go. I want my motorcycle to fly.
There you go.
That would actually be kind of cool.
I want to
That
get
would be
wings
cool.
on my Indian.
Yeah.
That would actually be kind of cool. Jeff, I'm still stuck back when you were talking about the elementals. How do I want to approach this question? From a paranormal perspective, how does the work, like say somebody like I do in the field, how does all of the universe affect what I'm doing at a location? Does it amplify it? Are there certain times of the year where activity is higher because of alignments, exorcisms. I mean, all of the above. How does that play a part in the life after death aspect and our spiritual being, ourself? How does that play a part in that as well?
Yeah, you know, that's a really cool topic, and one that I just absolutely adore in the Vedic astrology. And that is, the whole theory is that we are spirit manifest. In fact, they actually say when a human being is born, the guardian angel attaches the spirit, psyche, and soul to the embryo at conception, not at birth. And then they say the angel waits for the proper time at which the child exits the womb, and the spirit, psyche, and soul is tied in at first breath. And interestingly enough, breath is directly associated to life. I mean, any doctor will tell you they can defibrillate, jump up and down, inject you. When the breath stops, the spirit has vacated the body. And of course, many people talk about NDE, where they come back in and they start breathing again, all these things. And when you talk about elementals and all these things, I really believe this. I always say, forget Trinity, Neo, and Morpheus. This solar system might be the real Matrix.
The real Matrix.
We've
We've been talking about that more in the last year and a half than any other time.
Because we're woke.
Oh, my God.
Oh, God. I got to go.
Stay with us, Jeff. I'll put a rein on him.
You'll mute me. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, he's building missiles. I like him.
Yeah,
but anyhow, the cool thing is the element. They say our third eye chakra is where we emit elementals. We look with these, the eyes, but we project out of the third eye with elementals. Dr. Emoto, who I had the blessings of meeting in Tucson, Arizona before he died, it was a number of years ago, he gave us the books Messages in Water. And that actually is far more profound than I think it's even acknowledged. He gave us scientific proof of what many of the great spiritual avatars and leaders have said. All causation is mental. Somebody said that in Sermon on the Mount once. And also many of the rabbinical texts talk about this, and so does that get talked about in the Tibetan and many of the Eastern philosophies. And that is, we literally project out into our auric field these elementals. Well, interestingly enough, even after death, we become back in the spirit world, and those elementals still exist. And there seems to be a unified field of consciousness that is kept with the spirit, psyche, and soul that is reabsorbed at reincarnation. Now, for those who don't believe in reincarnation, I say, well, that's your thing. But that unified field seems to be what astrology is modulating and also representative of. Like modern astrologers all run around and say, oh, you're a Pisces, you're an Aries, you're this, you're that. And I always say, nothing could be further from the truth. We're not our astrology. We may have created the time that our, you could say, energetic field was born with. In other words, the astrology may represent the karmic imprint of what we come in on. And our astrology is not us. It actually may be a reflection of us. And then it modulates through these cycles as we go through time. And when you talk about property clearing like you are, Rocky, it's really interesting because we find that clearing spaces at good times has a huge effect on the flow of energy, like the moon especially. The moon also is indicative of the womb in a woman. And
how is that
they
so,
say, you know,
Jeff? How is that?
Well,
so?
the sun is the God's life force seed, and the moon is the crucible, and the four elements, which is the earth, sunrise, noon, sunset, and midnight, is the cross, and that is spirit manifest on the physical plane. And what's interesting is the sun is the seed. The father provides the seed germinates in the womb with the embryo, and then of course it becomes manifest. And the interesting thing is the spirit seems to be tied into the soul at first breath. I actually witnessed that with my son. I always heard that story. That, by the way, that story is in a text called the Sefer Haggadah. Haggadah is a strange word for legends in Aramaic and Hebrew. And it's a wonderful book. Anybody can get it. It's about that thick. It's huge.
What is it? The Sefer Haggadah.
Haggadah, right.
Okay.
Sefer means book, and Haggadah means legends, or you could say hand-me-down verbal stories. And
or similar to Akuna Hakata.
Oh, that's Akuna Matata. You're on,
there you go.
Am I
on the wrong page.
Am I? Okay, my bad.
Turn the page in your book.
Sorry,
Bob.
Jeff.
Thank you.
Sorry, brother.
You got to break it up, man. It gets too serious otherwise. But in all the spirits and souls and stuff. But in all interest of this subject, it really seems to show that the astrology is not us, but it's spirit manifest. Well, you take alchemy, you take spirit clearing. One of my favorite kind of left brain doctors was Dr. Carl Wickland, who's actually the man who popularized shock therapy treatment. And he lived, he graduated in 1916, I believe it was, from the Chicago School of Medicine. He did not believe in anything spiritual. He was literally a hardcore psychiatrist. Was, to be a psychiatrist, you have to be an MD first. And I have a lot of clients that are psychiatrists, and I love that whole subject of psychiatry, psychology, paralleled with Vedic astrology, because I
bet
really
there's some
fit.
serious conversations going on.
We have
those
some fun.
meetings.
We
Yeah.
really do, and I learn a lot, and they learn a lot, and we all have fun. But the cool thing is the where I'm going with this is he actually found out, Dr. Carl Wickland married a psychic channel. He fell in love with this beautiful woman in Hollywood, and he once he married her, he learned she was a channel, and he said, well, I know you're not crazy because you're very rational. And so he undertook a study, and he wrote a book called 30 Years Among the Dead. I would encourage any of your listeners, if you ever want to read one of the most fascinating books about afterlife, read 30 Years Among the Dead by Dr. Carl Wickland. And what happened was he got, his wife was under, you could say, a channeling of a disincarnate soul. We call them dead people. And what happened is, when the person took control of the body, which is very much like Ghosts with Patrick Swayze, and looked at him and said, you're the one who is been shocking me with lightning. And he says, well, what do you mean? And the person proceeded to explain a shock therapy treatment that went awry. And there's no way they could have known the details had they not been present. He said, you had to be there. He says, because you know every detail that went on. He said, well, of course I'm there. You shocked me. He says, by any chance do you wear a wedding ring and a dress? And he looked down, and of course he was controlling his wife's body. And he says, oh my God. He says, this is so weird. He said, well, apparently you're deceased or dead, as we would call it, and you're controlling my wife's body. And then he got the guy to realize his condition, and then all of a sudden he saw a mom that he hadn't seen in like a half a century, because she had passed away. And he, quote unquote, if you will, went into the light. Well, the patient cleared up at the mental institution. And for the next 30 years, Dr. Carl Wickland and his wife undertook a scientific study of life after death and all these disincarnate souls. It was just like Whoopi Goldberg in Ghost, where, remember, all the guys were trying to jump in and Morticia, what'd you do to your hair? I love that scene. But anyway, remember? And they were jumping in her body. So it's what I love about Wickland's book is it's a scientific, rational. Anybody who wants to question Dr. Carl Wickland's sanity can't. He was probably one of the most, I think, decorated. He ran the Los Angeles County Mental Institution up until, I believe it was the 40s. Don't quote me, but stunning work.
Jeff, I sit here and when I listen to you and I'm listening to all this, it just makes me realize how small we really are, as
Without
a
a doubt. It makes me want to go research and study and learn
Really are.
more about this.
If people just understood this a little bit more,
Yeah.
I think
I
it
agree.
would change people's lives. I think it would change their behavior. I think it would change their perception on so many things.
I've got a daughter who might have some interest in this, who might be able to teach me a few things, so we'll see.
Is she in this room?
Yes.
How you doing? Hey, Jeff, we have a live studio audience, but because you're on tonight, they all have headphones on and they're watching through their uniblabs, as Bauer would call it. So they are here with us. So this is a new thing for us, man. Live studio audience, and they're badass people too, and they're ninjas. So
Wow, great.
yeah.
Great.
Straight up.
I can't
ninjas.
see them, but hello.
So Jeff, we have just a little over 4 minutes now. Next time you come on the program, I would like to send you Brother Phillips's information, his birth date, the year he was born.
Okay.
Oh, I get the reading.
And you see if you could do a breakdown like you did for me.
I would love that, actually.
Sure, I'd be happy to.
It actually changes the way you think. Now, let me ask you, Jeff, for somebody who would like to contact you at jeffharman.com, what are some of the services that you offer to businesses, to individuals, people that deal with hauntings? Do you do remote clearings at all? Do you ever do any of that?
That's what I do the most of is remote
Remote
clearings.
clearing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
again, that gets into astral projection, and people. This is one of the things I love is you're bringing this all up, and I just want to interject because I know we only have a couple of minutes. But the Western civilization and many other places too have not cultivated the, I think, conscious power that we all have. And and I do blame some of the institutions that have influenced society, because if we could get a broader awareness of this, people would find how intuitive they all are. The lower conscious mind is like a sponge, and many of the quote unquote bad guys, if you will, or however we want to preface that, are very aware. Advertisers know this. If you tell somebody something enough, it doesn't have to be true. It just has to be acquiesced to.
That's right.
So our reality is our perception. And what's so fascinating about all this topic is that I think when we broaden our awareness, and I think there's never been a time more important than now as technology encroaches upon us, it needs to stay our servants and not us becoming enslaved.
Oh, and so
by the
many
few
people are
products.
enslaved by it now.
Yep.
No doubt.
You bet. You bet.
Oh, man, dude, I'm telling you. This is how I feel every time I had Jeff on the show in the past. I was just like, there's so much more I wanted to talk about and so much more I wanted
And
to
Jeff,
cover.
that means we'll just have to have you back more and more
All right.
to get into this. And we sure appreciate your time tonight, sir.
Oh, God.
It was fascinating for me. I told Rocky, I said, I'm the one being educated in this new show. So it was fascinating for me. So again, thank you very much.
So how, Jeff Harman at jeffharman.com, is that where you want us to send people?
Yeah.
If they, okay, so.
Jeff at jeffharman.com is the best way. My wife takes care of the emails. She's wonderful at it.
Yes, she is.
And that's really the best way in is Jeff at jeffharman.com. That's HARMAN, not ON. So a lot of people spell it ON and they go,
I did initially, but I fixed it. So
See, he wasn't lying, Phillips. Man, brother, Jeff, I am so happy that we're back on this type of platform. I'm so happy that you were the first one that we thought of to bring. I mean, we just started this new program
Monday night.
this week,
Yeah,
just
Monday
Monday night this week, and I told Ron, I'm like, we got to get Jeff Harman on the show. He is going to bend your brain and so much more. And brother, I tell you something, I've always highly respected you and your beautiful wife and everything that you both represent. And we look forward to having many more conversations just like this one right here, brother. So thank you so much for your time tonight.
thank you, Jeff.
Oh, you are very welcome. Many blessings to you both, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank
All right,
you, Jeff.
sir. Thank you. Woo, what's tomorrow night?
Tomorrow night's Freaky Fridays. I don't know what Freaky
We
Friday
don't know
means
what
yet,
it is,
but it's going to be freaky.
Friday.
I don't care. I may not wear pants during the show tomorrow.
Oh, please
Is that
wear
okay?
pants during the show because I can see behind the screen.
Misty said it's okay. Bonnie, are you okay with that?
no.
Bonnie ain't listening to me right now. She'll hear
Please
me in
wear
20
pants.
seconds. Hey, tomorrow night, Freaky Friday. Ron, take us out of here.
That's right, guys. Join us tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central. Freaky Friday for whatever that means. Stop touching me on the chest, dude. What is it? Is this your end of show thing that you're going to do
it's a
every
new
night?
thing, bro. Come on, we love you guys. Later.
We love you guys. Take care.
Yeah, my name is Meatball.
This is the sedition.
All right, we're clear from the radio. Thanks, folks, for joining us tonight. Sorry we didn't get to the chat room very much, but we will get there. Tomorrow night we'll probably do a little bit of chatting with you. So
I actually
I'm
think
going to go back and read all the comments
I'm gonna
now
tell
because
you
I was
something.
all intrigued into Jeff.
Jeff, folks, this is I've never done a show with Jeff where we took questions from the audience, and maybe in the future we can arrange that.
Oh, that'd be cool.
That would be cool because there are a lot of people that have very specific questions that are very advanced in this conversation.
We can take phone calls and put them through, and Jeff will be able to hear them.
We could do that.
See? Yeah.
But no.
All right, guys. Y'all have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow,
Freaky
7
Friday.
Central, 8 p.m.